Chapter 64 Catastrophe, War, and a New Century. When the 21st century emerged, Americans were optimistic, energetic, more free than any people anywhere, and dedicated to that freedom. We were enjoying a breezy, confident, promising time of affluence and achievement. After a long and torturous Cold War, it seemed to the average American as if the world's problems were on the way to being solved, and that democracy would soon be universal. How could there be a contest? How could oppression triumph over freedom? Most of us were very sure of ourselves, but we were underestimating the power of demons, of anger, jealousy, poverty, and ignorance. We were the world's superpower, and often so self-absorbed that we hardly paid attention to what was going on in the rest of the world, aside from wanting global customers. We knew that a worldwide terrorist network, Al-Qaeda, was training a generation of young men in tactics of violence, but we didn't do much about it. We'd forgotten that freedom is a delicate flower that needs nurturing, or rough feet will trample it. On September 11, 2001, something happened that jolted us from our complacency, and we and the whole world shuddered. That day, 19 terrorists hijacked 4 airliners, ramming 2 of them into the World Trade Center in New York City, 1 into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., while the 4th crashed in a Pennsylvania field after a heroic takeover by passengers and crew. Officially, more than 3,000 people died, including citizens from 80 nations, and thousands of others were injured, many seriously. Most are just ordinary people, but very special to the children, parents, friends, and lovers they left behind. It was, as President George W. Bush announced, a declaration of war by international terrorists based in the Muslim world. This is the world's fight, said the president. The civilized world, he said, was pitted against a terrorist network intent on remaking the world and imposing its radical beliefs on people everywhere. Making September 11th still worse, we learned that the hijackers blamed us, and the world's free nations, for most of their problems, and they hated us so much they were willing to die themselves in order to kill our citizens. Being hated isn't easy to take, especially as it was our deep beliefs, the freedom and pluralism and religious openness we so cherish, that they especially abhorred. Terrorist organizations, Al-Qaeda, the political/religious Taliban in Afghanistan, and others, were teaching armies of followers to be haters too. These people were using the language of the Islamic region to justify murder. They were preaching that we were Satan's children, that only they and their followers knew the truth about God, and that God would reward them for murdering us. They were religious zealots. History shows zealotry is unpromising. The terrorist message was a perversion of Islam, which rests on a foundation of peacefulness and respect for others. It was also a smokescreen that was hiding the real problems of a portion of the world where people were hurting. Much of the Middle East, despite oil riches, was an economic disaster. It was a region aching for answers. The terrorists were destroyers, not builders, they said. The killing of innocent people was a tribute to Allah, God. Around the world, religious leaders, including Muslims, recoiled in horror. The Al-Qaeda leader, a Saudi named Osama bin Laden, had been disowned by his family and kicked out of his own country. He had defiled the spirit of Islam's holy book, the Quran, with other acts of terror. 3 years earlier, he had issued an unholy edict that said, to kill Americans and their allies, both civil and military, is an individual duty of every Muslim who is able, in any country where this is possible. Bin Laden was calling for what he said was a jihad, or holy war, against America. But there is nothing holy about war, though it is sometimes necessary for protection or to end criminality. Many Muslim leaders made it clear that Bin Laden did not speak for them, and that their religion is respectful of life and of all people, and that, according to Islamic teachings, it is unholy to start a war or to kill the innocent. More than that, some Islamic scholars insist that the word jihad is often misused. It means to strive or struggle for a worthwhile purpose. To call killing innocent people a jihad is a distortion of its meaning, say many Muslims, but others throughout Islamic history have called for jihads against non-believers. Words are important, and disagreement over them often leads to conflict. Because we are free to read history, we know about witch burnings, crusades, and false jihads. We also know of Europe's Dark Ages, when Islam was a leading world civilization and Christians and Jews participated in affluent, tolerant, multicultural cities and universities. It was Islamic scholars who preserved Greek art and science when Western nations had discarded them, and all the world became richer for it. And then something happened, and fairly quickly, so that today, most Islamic nations are poor and troubled. When things go wrong, you can do 2 things: blame others or face problems and do something about them. The killer who destroyed the World Trade Center blamed the West for troubles in their nations. Many voices, Islamic and others, saw that as cowardly. Why is there misery in so many Muslim nations? Most experts tie it to the absence of freedom. Why did the terrorists pick on New York? Walk down New York streets and you'll rub elbows with Pakistans, Puerto Ricans, Japanese, Scots, Poles, Afghans, and Nigerians, many on their way to citizenship, as well as American citizens of every hue and faith and origin. Name any country you want, and you'll find someone from there, in New York. And all those diverse people managed to live and work together in a free society with astonishing harmony. What a marvelous example for the world. And that's just what the zealots were attempting to destroy. Their narrow vision said there is only one way to live, their way. We Americans reacted to the mass murders of September 11th with forceful, effective action. President George W. Bush immediately made it clear that we have no tolerance for terrorism and wrongdoing. Citizens gave him their overwhelming support. Almost unnoticed was our astonishing response to the unprecedented emergency. New Yorkers and volunteers from around the nation responded without hesitation. Firefighters rushed to the World Trade Center, and 343 died heroically, trying to save others. Subways, water pipes, electricity, phone lines, and other elements of the city's infrastructure were hard hit, but workers quickly repaired them. A U.S. Navy hospital ship pulled into New York Harbor and provided meals, medicine, and care. Hospitals set up emergency trauma units. School children made sandwiches for rescue and cleanup crews. Donors lined up to give blood. So many volunteer workers turned up that most had to be sent away. Perhaps most poignant was the platform erected at Ground Zero so that families and others could visit the site, pray, and pay respects. Those who came left messages and notes. Andrew, I've been here twice looking for your beautiful smile and that twinkling in your eyes, and both times God has let me know you are with him in a safer place. To my dearest love, life has no meaning without you, Angela. You are appropriately named, kind, sweet, and gentle. Love you forever, Elliot. Daddy, a piece of me died with you on September 11th. You are the most important man in my life. You are my strong point. You are my daddy. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us, wrote the 19th century philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. After September 11th, we knew that what lies within us is civic spirit, compassion, unselfishness, love, and a large measure of heroism.